the mysterious mass. When a mysterious mass washed up on shore in Indonesia, people had a lot of questions. At first, it was rumored to be the corpse of an enormous squid, which, to be fair, really would be quite the sight. Locals were flocking to the area to get a glimpse at this washed-up creature, which is said to have been the size of a shipping container. After more examination was done by experts, they got to the bottom of what this creature really was, and it was no squid. No, instead, this creature was actually a whale, a sperm whale to be more specific. Indonesia's Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries explained why this creature looked so far from itself when they explained the gruesome decomposition process. They said, quote, "With sperm whales, when they decay, the intestines will come out through the bottom of the throat, which is striped like a pumpkin, and they become curved." So that's gross, but at least it gives us answers to this long-time mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have Double Trouble. Over in the Netherlands, this is a discovery that, when it occurred, it shocked all of those who were there to see it. 2 fishermen were the ones that stumbled upon this, and at first, they thought they were seeing double. That is because what they found was actually a 2-headed porpoise. Of course, further research was done on this animal because the fishermen knew it was rare, but I don't think they knew just how rare it really was. Experts would go on to later confirm that this was the first case of conjoined twin porpoises ever discovered. In fact, it's so shocking that this happened because it's only the 10th known within the group of sea mammals that they belong to, which is a group that includes whales and dolphins. It truly was quite a remarkable discovery, albeit probably a bit shocking when it first happened. In our number 8 spot today, we have jellyfish. Back in 2017, there was a mega swarm of giant barrel jellyfish that ended up washed along the Welsh coastline. Like, I'm talking about thousands of them, and these creatures can be quite large as well, growing to be about 35 inches in diameter. Many experts were shocked and had explained that they had never seen this many, especially this large, before, so it was truly quite the sight to see. Experts explained that the unseasonably warm weather that was seen at the time likely boosted their numbers, and this may explain the mass quantity of them. In terms of how they ended up there, well, they were probably caught up while attempting to migrate. In our number 7 spot today, we have the sea snake. Okay, so rather than after disaster, these creatures kept showing up before disaster, and it had many people thinking that perhaps they were some sort of omen, and I can totally understand why. In the Philippines, before devastating earthquakes would appear, there would be these 10-foot-long creatures being referred to as sea serpents that would be found washing up on the beaches. Listen, if I found a weird, huge sea snake a bunch of times before something bad happened, I would also 100% think that it had some sort of omen. It turns out that these were just oarfish, and no, they're not an omen, and no, they can't predict earthquakes or other natural disasters. In our number 6 spot today, we have isopods. Okay, so you know pill bugs or potato bugs or roly-polies, whatever you want to call them, you know, the gross little bugs? Well, what if I told you that there's a sea creature that looks like them? And then what if I told you that sometimes this sea version grows to be like the size of a puppy? Yeah, a little unnerving and very disgusting, right? These things are actually isopods, and while most don't grow to be that large, one of the largest on record was found washed up in Indonesia. It has been nicknamed giant for obvious reasons and was measured to be about 13 inches long. This discovery, while disgusting, also proved to be quite remarkable as it was the first giant isopod to be found in over a decade. In our number 5 spot today, we have the octopus anomaly. When this creature was found, it almost became someone's meal until its anomaly was realized. It was an octopus, but instead of 8 arms, this one had 9. That's like a Novemopus now. Of course, this led to the question, how does an octopus grow 9 arms? Well, that has to do with their ability to regrow limbs. Like how lizards can regrow tails, octopuses have the ability to regenerate their own arms, but sometimes this process goes a little wonky. It's likely that this octopus at some point had to regrow their arm, and while that was happening, this new arm just sprouted another new one, thus the 9-armed octopus was born. Apparently, these sorts of things can happen over and over again to just one octopus. According to a 1965 study, it is said that this once gave an octopus 90 different arms. So that's a lot. In our number 4 spot today, we have this unidentified creature. This creature was found on shore after the devastating 2011 tsunami that hit Japan. A survivor of this disaster was the one who found this strange creature, and while at first, from a bit of a distance, it appeared as though it could be like a small whale or something like that. From close up, it appeared more like a boulder or a large rock, leaving people completely baffled. In the end, especially because all of the work that experts needed to turn their focus to during this time, whatever was seen by this person wasn't fully looked into, so what it ended up being remains a bit of a mystery. There's a video of the entire ordeal so that you can get a little bit of a closer look. In our number 3 spot today, we have the slickhead. This is a discovery that actually ended up being the moment an entire new species was discovered. Found in Japan, researchers were thrilled when they saw this colossal sea monster and realized that despite the heavily fished area that it came from, no one had ever found this fish before. The fish belonged to a family of fish known as slickheads, which are known for their scale-free heads and gill covers. But unlike other much smaller members of its family, this new find was a beast. The previously known members of this family usually grew to be about 14 inches in length, but this one was a massive 55 inches long and 55 pounds heavy. Another thing about this fish that made it different from its other family members is that, while slickheads are usually known for eating plankton and weak swimmers such as jellyfish, this new huge guy had evidence that showed he hunted other fish and was actually quite the predator. Despite this guy and his massive, terrifying look, it was definitely an exciting day for those getting to research this newfound fish. In our number 2 spot today, we have a long journey. After the devastating Japan tsunami that occurred in 2011, for years after, the oceans saw repercussions. Of course, this was also a disaster that carried over to land. Many people died, many homes and businesses were destroyed. I'm not trying to minimize or disregard the impact this tsunami had on humans. This is just a list of creatures, so that's what we're focusing on today. So basically, years after the tsunami, a whole slew of strange creatures started washing up on the shores of the Pacific Northwest and California. Some of these new creatures were even clinging to plastic debris that had been swept out to sea in the disaster. These creatures would continue to arrive year after year. We're talking shellfish, crustaceans, marine worms, sea stars, sponges, and even fish. What was alarming is that they were alive, and while that is great, some of these species are invasive and can totally throw off an entire ecosystem. It truly has been quite a time for research to see how this happened and how it affects both the animals themselves and the new area that they've been washed ashore to. In our number 1 spot today, we have the sea monster. Back in March of 2012, the nightmarish sea monster washed up on South Carolina shores and had people completely confused and stunned. People had truly no idea what it was, and the theories, of course, started swirling. Many people believed it was some sort of never-before-discovered sea monster, and honestly, I do not blame them. This thing looked weird, creepy, and I would have had no other guesses. It honestly looked like it could have been from Jurassic Park, but in the end, thankfully there are many people out there who know much more than I do, and experts were able to take the wheel and get to the bottom of this mystery. In the end, a local veterinarian was able to determine that this washed-up creature was in fact the corpse of a sturgeon that was covered in scut. The reason everyone thought it was a monster is because sturgeons are huge, growing to be 800 pounds and up to 15 feet in length.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the New Zealand monster. In 2013, a woman called Elizabeth Ann uploaded a video to YouTube of this creature washed up on Pukahina Beach, New Zealand. Now, most of its 30-foot or 9-meter long body was buried in the sand, leaving only its flippers and a mouth filled with sharp teeth visible. Elizabeth said it had been washed up during a recent storm and appeared to have been attacked by something else in the water. Before tests were even done, people were speculating about an even bigger creature out there, a killer of sea monsters. At number 9 now, we have the Raystown Ray. This one comes from Pennsylvania's Raystown Lake. Now, for many years, locals there reported seeing a large, shadowy figure just below their boats, sending them rocking in the turbulence. Then a local fisherman finally snapped these pictures of it. They quickly spread around the world until the managing director of the lake admitted they had known about the creature for quite a while. Personally described it as a private creature that often came to the surface in April, that it was a vegetarian, and that humans were most likely safe around it. But knowing all this didn't satisfy adventurers who still visit Raystown every April hoping for a glance. Moving on to number Number 8 now, we have the Corfu sea creature. In 2015, a Scottish tourist called Harvey Robertson was visiting the Greek island of Corfu and took some pictures inside a sea cave. Now it wasn't until he looked at them later that he noticed this strange creature in the frame. As this image spread online, even the experts were baffled about what it could possibly be. It appeared to have a nose and snout and looked nothing like the usual animals found in that area. Harvey himself said it looked like a creature from Greek mythology. Next up at number 7, we're going to Australia. In February 2017, the internet was very confused to see this image of a strange creature that washed ashore on Fremantle Beach in Western Australia. Its body was ash grey on top with a white underbelly. It was already decomposing when it was discovered, but people noted that there were parts of it missing. How it got there, what it was, and who or what had taken huge chunks out of it are still being hotly debated. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Montauk Monster. In July 2008, the Montauk Monster washed ashore on the Ditch Plains Beach, Montauk. The media went into a frenzy as people tried to figure out what it was. Its legs appeared too long to be a raccoon, sea turtles don't have fur or teeth, dogs don't have those kind of eyes or feet, and sheep's teeth aren't that sharp. Some people still maintain that it was a raccoon. Now the issue would have been put to rest if scientists were able to examine the corpse, but as quickly as it appeared, it disappeared not long after and has never been seen again. Alright, next up at number 5 now, we have the Hook Island Sea Monster. On December 12, 1964, photographer Robert Le Serec was in a rowboat off Hook Island in Queensland, Australia. Suddenly, heading towards him and his family in the water was a huge 80-foot long creature. Robert quickly grabbed his camera and snapped these pictures you're seeing now. It appeared to be some sort of giant water snake with a tadpole-like head. As it came closer, Robert said it appeared to have smooth skin, no fins, pale eyes, and a white mouth with no teeth. He also said it had a wound on its back, and that could have been the reason why it was taking shelter in the bay. As he tried to take more pictures, it seemed to get annoyed, it quickly turned around and swam into deeper waters. Alright, coming in at number 4 now, we have the Windermere Worm. In 2006, kayaker Tom Pickles took this picture of a creature in Lake Windermere, England. Now at first he thought it was a dog, but as he got closer he could see just how huge this thing was under the water. Tom said it was about the size of 3 cars and it sped past him. He estimated it was moving at about 10 miles per hour. The 3 humps you can see in the picture were moving in a rippling snake-like motion. Other people were very pleased to see this picture because it confirmed to them that their own sightings of the Windermere Worm were real. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Lagerflöt Worm, otherwise known as the Icelandic worm monster. For almost 700 years, locals near Lake Lagerflöt in Iceland have reported seeing a huge serpentine creature there. Along with the pictures of it, it's been described as being longer than a bus and has even been sighted lying outside of the water, sometimes slithering into the trees. Terrifying thought. Even the head of the Icelandic National Forest Service said they saw it. For the locals though, this isn't a good thing, as the 700-year-old legend says that bad things follow the worm monster's sighting. Moving on to number 2 now, we're going to Russia in June 2015, where a prehistoric-like mutant creature washed up on the shore of Sakhalin Island. Now as you can see, it was a very shocking sight for the people there to find. The bloodied, ripped up carcass was twice the size of a dolphin, with thick hair hanging off it. Marine biologists were very puzzled. Nothing they knew seemed to match this sight of an enormous dolphin-like creature with a beak and fur. Some people think it might have come from warmer waters to die. And finally at number 1, we have the Loch Ness Monster. What else could it be really? It's possibly the most famous sea monster of them all. It had been a local legend at Loch Ness in Scotland for over 1400 years, but ever since it was first photographed in 1933, the stories and pictures have captured the world's imagination. Nessie is said to be a large dinosaur-looking creature, almost like a plesiosaur, but with extra humps on its back. Some of the pictures have been outed as hoaxes, others have been explained away as natural objects in the water, but for the Nessie enthusiasts of today, there is no smoke without fire. They believe that even if you take away all of the fakes, there are still many stories and many pictures that need explaining.
Starting off this countdown in no order, we have the Mosasaurus. This sea creature was alive back during the Cretaceous period, which was 145 to 65 million years ago. It was a massive aquatic lizard that grew to around 58 to 59 feet. In fact, they were at the top of the food chain, eating everything beneath them. This included sharks, reptiles, and even other mosasaurus. Yes, they feasted on their own kind. Fossilized remains of this beast were first discovered in the 1700s in the Netherlands. From there, they learned that it inhabited the Atlantic Ocean and adjacent seaways. Fossils have been discovered all around the world though, in North America, South America, Africa, Western Asia, and Antarctica. In our 9th spot today we have Leviathan. Now this dude was in direct competition with the Megalodon. They were around 57 feet in length and weighed around 100,000 pounds. So yeah, they were pretty hefty guys. Not only that, but they had incredibly large teeth. Their teeth reached over a foot in length. This earned them the title of having the largest known biting teeth of any animal. But they died out between 3.6 and 2.6 million years ago. Just like the Meg, these creatures struggled to adapt to climate change, and they suffered losing their primary prey, which was small to medium-sized whales. If this creature was still around today, I couldn't imagine what the ocean would be like. You'd never catch me swimming in it, that's for sure. In our 8th spot today we have the giant oarfish. The oarfish is the world's longest bony fish. They can be up to 56 feet, which is 17 meters in length, and they can weigh about 600 pounds, which is 270 kilograms. They also look pretty weird, like they look like a cross between an eel and a fish, but they have bright silvery skin with bright red spikes running down its back. Back in the 1860s, two men were gathering seaweed on the coast of Bermuda when this creature washed up on the rocks. They immediately got scared and thought it was a nasty sea serpent, so they killed it. Later, it was discovered to only be an oarfish. In our 7th spot, we have ichthyosaur. Between 1976 and 1990, scientists unearthed the largest ichthyosaur tooth ever found. The width of this tooth root was twice as large as any aquatic reptile known. It had a diameter of 60 millimeters, which is 2.4 inches. This makes it the thickest ichthyosaur tooth found so far. Then in 2018, paleontologists discovered a 3-foot jaw segment that belonged to this creature. Then they started to piece together the fossil fragments of this creature and concluded that this animal could have grown to 85 feet in size, bigger than they originally thought this creature was. Now, these creatures were interesting. They roamed the oceans about 200 million years ago and had body shapes kind of similar to dolphins. It's said that they vanished about 25 million years before the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. In our 6th spot today we have the Shastasaurus. Now this is the biggest known ichthyosaur. In fact, to this day, this creature is the largest marine reptile that has yet been found. Now I say yet to be found because the oceans are massive, okay? Who knows what else is out there lurking that we haven't discovered yet? There's still so much to be discovered. Anyways, turns out that these bad boys lived in Canada. Woo, my home country. And they were about 69 feet in length or 21 meters. But some researchers have proposed that they were even bigger, and that's based on their partial fossils. So we really don't know their true size. I mean, it's said that the modern blue whale was the largest animal that ever lived, but paleontologists believe that these guys were even bigger based on their fossil records. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the whale shark. Now don't be fooled, okay? This isn't a mix between a whale and a shark. It's not a whale-shark hybrid. It's not even a whale, okay? But it is a shark. The only reason it's called a whale shark is because of its size. It currently holds many records for size in the animal kingdom. It is one of the largest sharks and largest living non-mammalian creature. And it's been around for at least 28 million years. It is said to be 65 feet in length and it weighs about 75,000 pounds. Now, when you think of sharks, you might think that they love to eat fish, you know? And that when they get a whiff of blood, they'll go crazy. Well, whale sharks aren't even like that at all. In fact, they're filter feeders, meaning that they eat plankton, fish eggs, and kill decaying plants, all that kind of stuff. So these sharks are pretty harmless. In fact, since it is a filter feeder, it has the ability to sift through over 1,500 gallons of water in an hour as part of its feeding ritual. In our 4th spot today, we have Leadsichthys. The Leadsichthys lived in the oceans during the Middle Jurassic period. It was all over the place in size. It could grow anywhere from 30 feet to 100 feet. So that's a pretty drastic size difference. But to this day, it is considered the largest ray-finned fish to ever swim on Earth. In fact, they were named after paleontologist Alfred Nicholson Leeds, who made important finds of the remains in 1889. Now, these dudes are pretty weird looking creatures. They look like an old whale mixed with a fish, like it's really strange. They also have long pectoral fins and a tall tail fin, and although they look big and bad, they mainly eat zooplankton. In our third spot today, we have Basilosaurus. The Basilosaurus, whose name literally means king lizard, lived around 41.3 to 33.9 million years ago. At first, they thought it was a reptile, but after scientists studied it more, they realized that it was indeed a marine mammal. So its name is very misleading because it's actually a whale, but it's weird, like it has a long eel-like body. It also has huge rows of teeth and it chewed its food, whereas whales kind of just swallow stuff whole. It was at the top of the food chain, so it likely fed on sharks and large fish among other marine mammals. This guy measures up to be about 49 to 66 feet in length, and that's 15 to 20 meters. In our second spot, we have the fin whale. The fin whale is said to be the second largest animal to ever live in the entire history of Earth. It was about 85 feet in length, which is 26 meters, and weighed about 80 tons. But even though they are massive, they are not predatory. In fact, they are totally harmless to people. They are filter feeders, so they eat like tiny krill and stuff like that. Like other whales, these had a white underside with a dark backside. They also live all around the world. They live in every ocean except parts of the Arctic where it's just covered in ice, and they can travel great distances while munching on relatively little food. As a result, they can live for nearly 150 years. And in our number one spot today, we have the blue whales. Now, it seems hard to believe, but blue whales are significantly larger than megalodons. The largest blue whale weighed about 418,000 pounds, which is more than 200 tons. Average blue whales, on the other hand, weigh a bit more than 100 tons, whereas the megalodon weighed only 50 tons. So they got nothing on the blue whales. Not only that, but even blue whale dwarfs reached 110 feet, which is 34 meters, and weighed about 200 tons. That's more than twice the size of the largest meg. Isn't that crazy? But the meg and the blue whale never met. The earliest fossils of blue whales date back to roughly 1.5 million years ago. That's about a million years after the megalodon is believed to have been around. Alright.
At number 10. Originally, when the Basilosaurus fossils were discovered in the 1830s, it was believed that this animal was some sort of reptilian sea monster. So that's why they were named the Basilosaurus, which literally means king of lizards. However, it was later revealed that these creatures are not reptilian at all. They are actually gigantic ancient whales. But unlike the whales we have today, the Basilosaurus was sleek like an eel, and they measured up to 65 feet long. Despite its long size, the Basilosaurus had very small flippers and a short head compared to the rest of its body. It is believed that they most likely ate whales and fish that are smaller, but other predators would not dare bother to compete for food against this beast. Tanystropheus jumps into this list at number 9. The Tanystropheus lived in shallow waters, but it was also believed to live and hunt on the land. They were not very fast swimmers, so they would often walk along the shores and use their long necks to get within range of prey without being detected. Similarly to lizards that we have alive today, the Tanystropheus had a tail that could detach if a predator managed to latch onto it, and it would be able to regenerate. Their teeth was also very unusual. The front teeth were similar to a rake, and the back teeth were flattened like molars. They mainly ate fish and other small aquatic animals, but they're able to reach into bushes and trees with their extremely long necks. Let's take a look at a reconstruction of what these beasts look like if they were alive today.
Great long neck, great long tail, there's hardly any body at all. That long neck is perfect for an ambush predator.
If these things still existed today, you would never find me swimming in the ocean, now that's for sure. Up next, number 8, we have another terrifying creature that goes by the name of Leoplorodon. This scary looking creature lived about 160 million years ago, and this was during the Middle Jurassic period. Just looking at some of these pictures, you were able to tell that these creatures were very ferocious reptiles. They were approximately 30 feet long and weighed in at about 2.5 5 tons, but it wasn't their size that made these reptiles dangerous. They had a 5-foot long skull that was filled with razor sharp teeth that were designed to easily tear through flesh, muscle, and even bones. According to paleontologists, the Leoplorodon had a directional sense of smell, so they made for excellent hunters, and because of the position of their flippers, they were also very fast in the water. I'm just so glad we don't have to worry about running into these ferocious looking beasts. And now at the number 7 spot, we're talking about the Jacalopterus rene, or otherwise known as the giant sea scorpion. So if any of you are scared of creepy crawlers, you probably aren't going to like this creature. And that's because when scientists discovered its giant fossilized claw, they were able to assume that when it was alive, this giant sea scorpion would measure about 2.5 meters long, which is much taller than the height of an average man. Paleontologists believe that this creature existed on Earth when oxygen levels in the atmosphere was much higher than it is today. So due to these elevated oxygen levels, scientists say that this was the reason behind their enlarged bodies. And perhaps many other huge invertebrates existed during the same time, such as monster millipedes. There was also huge cockroaches and ginormous dragonflies. I would never want to live in a world where a cockroach is the size of my foot. I don't think I'd be able to go about my day knowing that these creatures are there. Next up, number 6, we have the whale that ate other whales. We're talking about Leviathan melvillei. This evil looking beast was a prehistoric whale that lived approximately 13 million years ago during the Miocene period. Based on its fossils, scientists were able to predict that this whale was approximately 50 feet long and it weighed about 50 tons or about 100,000 pounds. Oh, and did I mention that this beast also had teeth that were 14 inches long? So that means that this beast weighed 6 times more than an elephant and its teeth were even longer than a saber-toothed tiger. But what makes this animal so interesting is, unlike other whales, the Leviathan didn't feast on plankton, it ate meat. Actually, paleontologists believe that they ate seals, dolphins, and maybe even other whales. Is this real life right now? Not only was this whale massive, he was the whale version of Hannibal Lecter. Dacosaurus swims onto our list at number 5. Prepare yourselves for this one because the Dacosaurus isn't a pretty sight. Actually, they were pretty terrifying looking creatures. Their name literally means tearing lizard, and even though they were similar to a saltwater crocodile, they aren't any less ferocious. Scientists believe that these creatures were approximately 15 feet long and weighed in about 2,000 pounds. Not only did they look like a strange mix between a crocodile and a dinosaur, they had a powerful jaw and serrated sharp teeth that they used to tear flesh off a large marine reptile. The scientists who discovered its skull gave this creature the nickname Godzilla because of its unusual snout, which was short and deep and extremely long serrated teeth. It is believed that they had a very powerful bite force and they were likely a top predator during its time. The giant stingray makes us cringe in at number 4. This haunting creature can grow up to 17 feet across and it has a 10-foot poison spike in its tail. They're also known to pull boats up and down river and even underwater. Oh, and I didn't mention that these giant prehistoric stingrays are still alive today. Yeah, that's right. If you're not thrilled about meeting one of these gigantic stingrays, then I would avoid traveling to Mekong River and Australia. Scientists estimate that these creatures can grow up to 5 meters in length and weigh 600 kilograms. And even though stingrays don't normally attack humans, they pose a real danger to those who decide to handle them. I guess we all know that's true when we think about Steve Irwin. And that's because they have a deadly barb that can easily penetrate human skin and even bone, and once you are penetrated with their poisonous barb, they will most likely inject their poison. Haunting us in at number 3, we have a prehistoric ghost shark and we call it the helicorpion. This deadly looking shark is believed to have been about 30 to 40 feet long, which makes this beast roughly double the size of the largest great white shark currently on record. The helicorpion is mostly known for being the world's only animal with a complete 360-degree spiral of teeth. Actually, the purpose and placement of their teeth have been up for debate for more than a century, and it still remains a mystery today. But one thing that is for sure, you definitely wouldn't want to see this bizarre shark swimming straight for you. But thankfully for us, they weren't meant to eat creatures with bones, and they went extinct 230 million years ago. Whew. Well, here's a video that shows you the sinister looking animals that they have hunted. Crunching down in this list, at number 2 we have the Kronosaurus. These beastly looking creatures lived approximately 125 years ago during the early Cretaceous period. And as you can probably tell by these pictures, I wouldn't exactly call these creatures cute. Actually, they look pretty terrifying. They were about 33 feet long and weighed about 10 tons. It had a short snout and tons of teeth with a powerful jaw. Their teeth aren't the sharpest when compared to other marine animals, but that didn't stop them from brutally killing their prey. That's because they would bite onto their prey, they would shake them to death, and then crush their skull with their powerful jaws. Their fossils have only been found in Australia and Colombia, but that's because of the extreme distance between these two countries. Scientists have speculated that the Kronosaurus could have been found worldwide. And finally, chomping into our number 1 spot, we have the infamous megalodon. The megalodon has the honor of being the largest known predator in the history of Earth. This beast can grow up to lengths of 60 to 70 feet and weigh 50 to 80 tons. To put that into perspective for you guys, the largest great white shark measured in at about 21 feet and weighed 3.5 tons, so a little guy in comparison. So if one of your biggest fears is a great white shark, I guess you're happy to know that these sinister beasts are extinct and you won't find them creeping underneath your boat anytime soon. But then again, there are skeptics out there that believe that the megalodon shark is living at the deepest part of our oceans. And considering that our oceans are only 5% explored, maybe this theory isn't, that far-fetched.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Xiphactinus. Xiphactinus was a prehistoric fish that lived during the late Cretaceous period around 85 million years ago. It was a predatory fish that could grow up to 20 feet in length and weighed up to 1,500 pounds, making it one of the largest bony fish of all time. This fish had a long, streamlined body with powerful jaws and sharp teeth that allowed it to hunt and devour smaller fish and marine reptiles. It had a unique adaptation in its skeleton with a hinged lower jaw that could open very wide, allowing it to swallow prey whole. How terrifying is that? Fossils of this fish have been found in North America, particularly in what is now Kansas and Alabama, as well as in Europe and South America. It is believed that this fish went extinct along with the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period, around 66 million years ago. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Godzilla shark. With a name like that, this creature is surely anything but disappointing. About 300 million years ago, these guys ruled the sea and were one of the most terrifying sea creatures ever on our planet. Fossils of these guys have been found in the Mazano Mountains, which lie east of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they were found in 2013 by paleontologist John Paul Hodnett. So think of a massive shark, but now picture it covered in scales, like a reptile. Okay, now add 12 rows of super sharp teeth, and also the largest dorsal fin spines of any shark that has ever lived. Okay, so now you've pretty much got a Godzilla shark. It was nicknamed the Godzilla shark because of its size, as the skeleton is the largest fossil of its kind ever discovered in the area, as well as the fact that its fin spines are so intriguing to look at. While it was called the Godzilla shark upon its discovery, it has since received a more official name of Hoffman's dragon shark, both to honor the family that owned the land where the skeleton was found, and as an homage to its monstrous and reptilian appearance. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Temnodontosaurus. Temnodontosaurus is a genus of extinct marine reptile belonging to the group of ichthyosaurs. They lived during the Jurassic period, approximately 180 to 150 million years ago. These guys were a large predator that could grow up to 33 feet or 10 meters long, with a very long and streamlined body that allowed it to swim quickly through the water. These guys had a long snout filled with sharp teeth that it likely used to catch and eat fish and squid. Fossil evidence suggests that they may have also been cannibalistic, with larger individuals preying on smaller ones. Like in ichthyosaurs, these guys gave birth to live young rather than laying eggs. I mean, it's the ocean. Several species of these guys have been described, with the most well-known being T. Platiodon. This species was first described in the early 19th century and is known from fossil remains found in Europe, particularly in Germany and the UK. T. Platiodon was named for its flattened teeth, which were adapted for crushing the shells of its prey. Overall, these guys were a formidable predator that dominated the Jurassic seas. Its large size and sharp teeth made it a fearsome sight for any smaller creatures that happened to cross its path. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Tylosaurus. These creatures belong to the family of mosasaurs, and they have long eel-like bodies that allowed them to smoothly cruise through the waters. They had the ability to have intense bursts of speed that propelled them to their prey, which they could quickly take down. The snout of these creatures is thought to have been quite large and robust compared to other species of mosasaurs, which has led researchers to believe that they may have used it to their advantage. To do this, they might have rammed into larger prey so that they were stunned. This gave them time to turn around and finish the prey with their large jaws. Despite these specialized skills, it seems as though these guys weren't very picky with what they ate, as they have been found with all kinds of remains found in their stomach area. These creatures were very large, but they are also way faster and more agile compared to other mosasaurs. What more could you want in a prehistoric predator? In our number 6 spot today, we have Heliocostis moroccensis. These guys are an extinct animal that lived around 520 million years ago during the Cambrian period. They were a small, bizarre-looking creature with a spiral-shaped body and a mouth surrounded by tentacles. These guys are known from fossil remains found in Morocco. Scientists believe that these guys were a filter feeder, using their tentacles to capture plankton from the water. The spiral shape of its body may have helped to control its buoyancy and to help them just stay afloat in the water. Its mouth was located at the center of the spiral, and its tentacles extended outward to capture food. These guys are a very important animal in the study of early life on Earth because it belongs to a group of animals known as echinoderms. Echinoderms are a diverse group of animals that include modern-day sea stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers, all of the weird things sitting on the ocean floor. The discovery of these guys has helped scientists to better understand the evolution and the diversity of echinoderms. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Megalodon. Okay, my favorite, your favorite, everyone's favorite. Is any terrifying prehistoric sea creatures list truly complete without an appearance from the Meg? Megalodons are one of the largest sharks to have ever existed. They were huge, they were terrifying, they were apex predators, and they are the creatures that inspired the tales of Jaws, or the Meg. The teeth on these sharks are so large that they are 3 times larger than the teeth of a modern great white shark. With teeth that size, you can only imagine how large this shark would have been. It's pretty tough to figure out exactly why the Megalodon died out. I mean, they were one of the largest, scariest creatures who shouldn't have had any trouble getting food, but that might not be the case. Some believe it was the cooling waters, others believe it was the competition for food. Whatever the case in the end, while the Megalodon is an incredible creature in history, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief that they aren't currently swimming around our oceans. Or are they? In our number 4 spot today, we have the Opabinia regalis. Opabinia regalis is an extinct animal that lived around 505 million years ago during the Cambrian period. It was a small, bizarre-looking creature with a long, segmented body that measured up to about 7 centimeters in length. Pretty tiny compared to the other giants on this list. Opabinia had 5 eyes and a nozzle-like proboscis at the front of its body, which is likely used to grab prey from the seafloor. Opabinia is an important animal in the study of early life on Earth because it belongs to a group of animals known as arthropods. Arthropods are a diverse group of animals that includes things like insects, spiders, and crustaceans. Opabinia is unique among arthropods because of its unusual body plan and its feeding habits. They likely fed on small invertebrates and other small animals on the sea floor. Its proboscis may have been used to probe the sediment for prey, and its 5 eyes likely helped it to locate prey in low light conditions. These guys are known from fossil remains found in the Burgess Shale Formation in British Columbia, right here in Canada. The Burgess Shale is a world-famous fossil site that has yielded many important discoveries in the study of early life on Earth. Opabinia is just one of the many fascinating and bizarre creatures that lived during the Cambrian period. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Helicoprion. This animal existed somewhere around 250 million years ago, and while it looks more like a shark than anything else, scientists now know that it was actually a creature that is related more closely to chimeras, which are a fish that separated from the shark family about 400 million years ago. So why is this animal just so scary and terrible to look at? Well, that is due to the incredibly unsettling spiral saw formation of teeth that this creature had right on their lower jaw. Yeah, An orthodontist's dream, truly. It's also not like this creature was just born with this teeth that they had for the rest of their lives. No, of course not. They had teeth that could grow, and new teeth could even form. Imagine being in the ocean and you see a huge creature swim up to you that has 4 spiral saws for teeth. Yeah. No thanks. Never going swimming. In our number 2 spot today we have Cephalaspis. Cephalaspis is an extinct fish that lived around 400 to 360 million years ago during the Devonian period. It has a flattened armored head and a small streamlined body that measured up to about 60 centimeters in length. These guys likely lived in freshwater environments and fed on small invertebrates and plankton. These guys had a bony plate on the top of their head that protected their brain and their sensory organs. This plate, known as a cephalic shield, was shaped like a triangle and had 2 large openings for the eyes. These guys also had a pair of small paddle-shaped fins near the front of their body that they used for swimming. These guys are an important animal in the study of early fish evolution because it is one of the earliest known jawless fish. Jawless fish include modern-day lampreys and hagfish. They lack the jaws and paired fins that are found in most modern fish. These guys are known from their fossil remains that have been found in many parts of the world, including Europe, North America, and Asia. The discovery of these guys have helped scientists to better understand the early evolution of fish and the diversification of life during the Devonian period. And finally, in our number 1 spot today we have Anomalocaris. These guys are an extinct animal that lived around 500 million years ago during the Cambrian period, and they were a large predatory animal that measured up to a meter in length. These guys had a circular mouth surrounded by spiny plates, which it likely used to grasp and crush its prey. These guys are an important animal in the study of early life because they are one of the earliest known arthropods. These guys are unique among arthropods, however, because they have a very unusual body plan and also unusual feeding habits. They had a segmented body and a pair of large paddle-shaped appendages at the front that helped it swim through the oceans. Its circular mouth was lined with sharp teeth, and its spiny plates may have been used to grasp and manipulate their prey. These guys are known from fossil remains found in many parts of the world, including Canada, China, and Australia. They're kind of all over the place. The discovery of these guys has helped scientists to better understand the early evolution of arthropods and just, what was going on during the Cambrian period. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have this haunting call. Whales truly are some of the coolest animals on Earth, and humpback whales are no exception. The males of the species are known for their songs, which last from 10 to 20 minutes and are actually pretty complex. They will repeat these songs for hours at a time, and it honestly isn't exactly known why they sing these songs at all. All the males in the group will produce the same song, and it will change seasonally. The females are also able to produce noise, but for some reason it is only the males who seem to produce these long songs. It is unclear how the whales even produce these sounds, however, because they don't actually have vocal cords. This is all super cool and interesting, but the whole reason you're here is for the sound, so let's take a listen to a more haunting track released by the humpback whale. Okay, so please tell me I'm not alone in thinking that that was the most beautifully haunting sound I've ever heard come from the sea. But also imagine being alone in the ocean, not knowing what that was, and then hearing it. Probably pretty terrifying, right? At least we're all safe here in YouTube land. In our number 9 spot today we have this marine chorus. Okay, so out of context, if I played you this sound, what would you think it is? Definitely not something underwater, right? Well, as it turns out, this sound was indeed captured under the water, and these are the sounds of fish calls. While I always expected the chorus of marine animals to sound a little more similar to the stylings of Sebastian the crab, apparently that isn't even close. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know that most fish had calls, but it turns out that our human ears just can't perceive all of the hoots, moans, barks, and chirps that take place in the vast seas. This recording actually helped scientists realize that there are fish who sing together in a chorus every day at dusk and dawn. There have now been around 800 species of fish that have been identified and confirmed to make some form of noise, and apparently some fish even engage in shouting matches in noisier parts of the ocean, which is kind of hilarious to imagine. I guess on the list of creepy noises, this one is less creepy and more just informative. In our number 8 spot today we have the whistle. This is a sound that was first recorded in 1997 by the NOAA and was the source of many mysteries for years while people speculated about what may have caused the sound. While it still isn't exactly clear, it is now believed that the sound may have come from an underwater volcano eruption. If you didn't know, underwater or submarine volcanoes are located in all oceans on our Earth, and they're extremely interesting. There are certain kinds of marine animals that only exist near these extreme environments. Many submarine volcanoes are located near the areas of tectonic plate formations, which are also known as mid-ocean ridges. There's a YouTube user called Some Canadian, and they left a comment on a video of this whistle sound that pretty much sums it up exactly. First, we'll listen to the sound played at 10 times the original speed. The comment read, quote, "It could be the sound of something moving through tunnels. 1. Volcanic eruptions and gases. 2. Something big and hungry. You choose." I think they might really be onto something there. In our number 7 spot today we have bloop. Why are all of the weirdest ocean sounds first recorded in 1997? Bloop is another one that came from that year, and it was a loud and unusual sound that was placed as occurring several times off the southern coast of South America, and it was so loud that it could be heard over 5,000 kilometers away. At first, researchers were confused because, while the sound was actually similar to known sounds of living creatures, it was just way too loud that not even the blue whale, the largest living creature, could have produced it. So what is it then? Well, as it turns out, it is in fact not the Kraken, and instead it is actually consistent with ice quakes that are generated by large icebergs as they crack and fracture. It seems like this sound, going with that explanation, doesn't really make sense, but hey, I'm no scientist. But here's the sound for you to judge for yourself. In our number 6 spot today we have the Western Pacific biotwang. In 2014, researchers and scientists heard weird sounds coming from the Mariana Trench, which, for the record, seems like the worst place for there to be strange noises coming from. For years, experts couldn't pin down this sound, and it was dubbed the Western Pacific biotwang, and while there is now a theory that was proposed by researchers from Oregon State University, they have also said that they might be entirely wrong. First, for reference, here's a little clip of the sound I'm talking about. Okay, so if you're like me, my mind immediately went to something alien related or some sort of creature that perhaps we haven't yet discovered. I mean, this is the Mariana Trench we're talking about. The theory put forward by the Oregon State researchers was that perhaps this may be a new type of baleen whale call. Okay, that's probably the best of all of the options, but I really don't like when someone tells me the answer to a scientific mystery only to tell me that that might not actually be the answer at all. While the low part of the sound would make sense to attribute to the baleen whale, it's the end high-pitched twangy part that would be incredibly unique. The wide range of frequencies in the sound are what continues to baffle those who are trying to find the source of this mysterious sound. In our number 5 spot today we have Julia. Julia is a sound that was recorded in 1999 by the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which I've already talked about today. It sounds like it could be straight out of a horror movie, so considering it was a sound that came from our ocean and at first no one could tell where it had come from, it really was quite frightening. The sound has now likely been demystified, as researchers are pretty positive they know the origin of it. It is now believed that this sound was caused by an iceberg running aground off Antarctica. The sound, however, was insanely loud. It was so loud that it could be heard over the entire equatorial Pacific Ocean autonomous hydrophone array. Researchers were later able to narrow down what they believe may have been the point where the sound originated, although they've never actually been able to pinpoint it exactly. Most of the time when people hear the Julia sound, they hear it sped up at 16 times the original speed, but today we are going to listen to a clip of the sound at regular speed because I think it is much more eerie this way. In our number 4 spot today we have knock. Okay, this is one that I'll admit was not captured by a submarine, but it was still underwater and it truly is terrifying. A few years ago, a beluga whale named Knock, who was unfortunately in captivity, was recorded as he swam below the water. Beluga whales have been called the canaries of the sea, and for good reason, but Knock really wanted to up the ante and instead blessed us all with this sound. Knock had this uncanny ability to mimic the rhythm and tone of human voices, and it truly is kind of frightening. It of course is also a little sad, as part of this was probably because he spent most of his life being forced to listen to humans speak because he was being held in captivity. Before this recording of Knock, the voices of belugas and their sometimes human-like sounds have been talked about, but Knock was the first time it was recorded, and honestly, I kind of wish it hadn't been. In our number 3 spot today we have the bioduct. Since the 1960s, this sound has absolutely stumped researchers who heard it. This sound was basically what the name attributed to it would suggest. It sounded like some sort of mechanical duck. For decades, researchers would hear this sound and it would often be heard and recorded again in the spring and winters. After all of these years though, it seems as though the answers to this mysterious sound are finally coming to light. In 2013, researchers attached sensors that collect acoustic data to 2 whales. One of those tags recorded for 18 hours and the other for 8, and the whales they were attached to were traveling with other whales in groups of 5 to 40, and they were all eating basically the entire time. Throughout this time, with the tags on the whales, there were a total of 32 calls heard, and this data is what led researchers to finally understand where the bioduct sound was coming from. As it turns out, this mysterious sound was actually the call of the minke whale. Researchers still aren't exactly clear as to what the call means to the whales, but it was a fantastic discovery that finally closed an almost 50-year-old scientific mystery. In our number 2 spot today we have upsweep. We all know how little we know about the ocean, and that also includes what kind of creatures lie in it. So while this mysterious sound out of context probably wouldn't be that freaky, when put into this situation it becomes quite a bit more eerie. This sound is referred to as upsweep, and it was caught when the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory started its sound surveillance system in August of 1991. The sound is apparently more seasonal, with its peaks in spring and fall, but it is unclear if the changing of seasons is responsible for this sound, or if it's coming from something that lurks in the ocean and remains undiscovered. Just for reference, here's a clip of that sound played at 20 times the original speed. It is possible that this sound could be coming from underwater volcanic activity, but it is also possible that it's not, so who really knows? In our number 1 spot today we have an earthquake. Okay, so to add another creepy Mariana Trench sound to this list, we have one that was taken from the bottom of the Challenger Deep. In fact, it was the first ever sound recording to be taken from the bottom of the Challenger Deep, so it's a pretty cool scientific advancement as well as a terrifying sound. Despite the crushing pressures and the fact that there's no sunlight, the Challenger Deep is actually pretty noisy, and that is because of the fact that sound travels a really long way underwater, which ends up kind of turning the Challenger Deep into a sort of echo chamber of oceanic sounds. So while the recording was able to pick up things like the sound of a boat almost 11 kilometers overhead and the sounds of whale calls, they were also able to pick up the sound of a magnitude 5 earthquake rumbling near Guam on July 16th, 2015. Not gonna lie, while being one of the scariest things I've ever heard, this is also one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life too. Science really is just so cool sometimes. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video today, and as always, subscribe. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!
Click right here, yeah, right on this massive jaw, to uncover the ultimate apex predator. The megalodon, a 60-foot super shark that dominated the seas. But here's the twist, some say it never went extinct. Could this prehistoric beast still be alive, hunting in our oceans? Find out now, if you're not afraid to dive in.